Welcome in, I'm Artress, and in this video we're going to be going over a new leader from OP13 in Yellow Bonney, a 5-life leader that says your turn, once per turn. This effect can be activated when you play a character with a trigger. Give up to 2 rested Dawn cards to your leader or one of your characters. Now, if this was any other meta besides the one that we're currently in OP13, I would say Bonney is actually a very strong leader. However, she does have limitations with some of the current top dogs out there, specifically Emu and Ace. I think that Bonney has a rough time into those matchups, but if you are expecting a lot of green Zoro, I do think Bonney has a little bit better of a time against that deck. So there is a place for this deck in the meta. It's probably one of the best yellow decks out there right now. I would say it's even better than Piss Kid if that's the case, just because of the fact that you are being aggressive and you're forcing your opponent to respond to you. You're trying to close the game out around your 9 Dawn turn. If you do go a little bit longer than that, you can close the game out, but it becomes a little bit dicey. So you're playing an aggressive version with this build. But before we go over the deck list, if you're new to the channel, please make sure to hit that sub button and give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Also, please make sure to join the Discord. The link for that is in the description below. Now, with this deck list, we have a solid 50 here. This is based off of a list that topped in I think it's like a Starbucks Cup in Japan, which is kind of like a 3-person local tournament. So this one hasn't necessarily won anything big. And the reason I based it off of that deck list from Kai KKRG, as you can see on screen here, this deck list is very solid as far as the consistency goes. There's a lot of 4-ofs. Everything in the deck has a trigger except for 4 cards, and so your game plan is very simple and straightforward. I have been playing a lot of different variants of Bonney where you have a lot of 1-ofs, you have things that might be a little bit more towards the top end of what you're trying to do. And while those deck lists are pretty solid, drawing into pieces that you might need can become a little bit more difficult. So we just made it super simple and made 4-ofs everywhere across the board. And as a result, I think that the consistency of what you're trying to do with this deck really shines. Starting off, we have a playset of Lilith. This is a new card from OP13. It's an on play that looks at the top 4 cards of the deck and just grabs 1 card with trigger and then puts the rest at the bottom of the deck. Of course, you can't grab Lilith, so that is something to note. Some people do like to run the 3-cost Lilith, and so if you're running this, then you can't grab that, which is unfortunate, which is why we don't have it in this deck list. The trigger here is an activate this card's on play effect, so if it does come out of life, you get the effect for free, which is pretty nice. Next up, we have a playset of Otama 2K counters from PRB02. This card synergizes really well with this leader. It's an activate main, rest this character, and add 1 card from the top or bottom of your life cards to your hand, and then up to 1 of your leader or characters gains 3,000 power during this turn. So essentially, this is a 2-cost, and it's making your leader become a 10k swing because the 2 Dawn that you play, that you get back from having this be a trigger, can go to your leader, and then you use the effect and gain an additional 3,000 power. Very strong there. Good way to close out games where your opponent might not expect that much power coming out of nowhere. And the trigger also has a pretty solid effect of resting an opponent's character with a cost of 4 or less. Next up, I'm running a playset of the 3-cost Bonney from OP08. Now, this card hasn't really necessarily made any strides in yellow decks as of now, but I feel like it fits pretty well into this deck, both thematically and then also just overall with the synergy of what the deck's trying to do. This is the best thing that you can open up with on your 3 Dawn turn. Playing this down, you have a couple of options. You can use the leader effect to put the 2 Dawn underneath your leader and swing for 7, or you can put the 2 Dawn underneath this Bonney and then swing for 5 with your leader. And that can create an interesting opening turn where your opponent has to consider, oh, I can counter out of this and also deny them card draw. And usually you can get a card out of hand at that point in time, which more times than not, your opponent doesn't really want to counter that out because they go too low in hand size that early. So this is a very interesting card to play down for that reason. Next up, we're running a playset of the 3-cost Edison 2K counter from OP13. This is an activate main, trash this character. If you have less life cards than your opponent, draw 1 card, then rest up to 1 of your opponent's characters with a cost of 3 or less. The trigger is draw 1 card and then rest up to 1 of your opponent's characters with a cost of 3 or less. So it's the same effect there. This is not necessarily super handy, but it is a nice 2K counter that if you have a pesky blocker on the field, like maybe a Kushiro against a green deck, you can use this to then rest that and bypass that blocker. Next up, we have a playset of Kikunojo. This is just a very solid trigger body to have in the deck. 4 cost, 6,000 power is the best stat line you can get for that cost. On KO, if your opponent's life is 3 or less, place the top card of your deck to the top of your life, which of course your opponent's not going to really want to swing into this because they don't want to give you more life. But if they do, then of course you can prolong the game a little bit, stay alive a little bit longer, and then add that pressure on and hopefully close the game out by then. The trigger here, of course, is also if your opponent's life is at 3 or less, play this card. So you're going to try to get your opponent down to that life total so that if this is in your life at that point when they hit it, it will be able to come out for free. Next up, we have a playset of Frankie, 2k counters, a 4 cost 5,000 power body. Also on top of that, it has a trigger that says draw 1 card, and then if you have 1 or less life, play this card. Sometimes that is that additional body that you need that comes out of life that can help close that game out. Otherwise, solid 2k counter, or otherwise a solid 4 Dawn play if you don't have anything else to play on that turn. But you would probably want to play this 4 cost instead of the Frankie because the 4 cost Basil Hawkins, of course, is a menace to a lot of decks. The reason it's such a pain is because of the fact that it's on KO is trash up to 1 card from the top of your opponent's life cards. So your opponent will likely not ever want to swing into this. And if they do, then you get that free trash, which is very nice to add that extra pressure because, of course, their life is kind of like a clock that you have to pressure down. And if you can get those life cards taken for free and not even go to their hand, then you're really coming out on top of that exchange. The trigger for this is draw 2 cards and discard 1 from your hand, so being able to filter your hand is also very nice. You don't run a lot of bricks, but of course, the cards that you do want to see might not be in your hand at that time, and if this Hawkins can trigger and get that card closer to your hand, and the card I'm specifically talking about is like the 9 cost Bonney, because you want to see that at least once in the matchups that you're playing, then Hawkins can help you get there. Next up, we have Nami, which is a 5 cost 5,000 power character. It's an on play that says you may trash 1 card with trigger from your hand and then KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 5 or less. Then if you have 3 or less cards in your hand, draw 1 card. The trigger is activate this card's on play effect. This is probably one of your best cards in the mid game because it's a strong removal piece to be able to answer your opponent's threats that can answer your threats. So the thing is with this deck, you're wanting to keep your bodies piling on the field, and if your opponent has a body that's around equal size, they can easily just swing into your cards and you're going to lose card advantage. If you do have this Nami and you can play it out and get rid of a 5 or 4 cost that will be answering your 5 cost, then I think that's probably a really good exchange there. Just being able to have that tempo to continue to push for life and go for game is really powerful. And of course, when Nami comes down on the field, you are able to get that leader effect and put 2 Dawn on something, either a character or the leader. To add on to the tempo theme here, we have a playset of the new Boa Hancock from PRBO2. It's a 5 cost, 7,000 power character, really strong stat line. The on play is you may trash 1 card with a trigger from your hand up to one of your opponent's rested leaders or characters other than Monkey D. Luffy cannot attack until the end of your opponent's next turn. So this will be able to stop an attack from your opponent, whether that is like the Zoro leader or maybe a huge character that you're afraid of pushing for lethal. This card can be really pivotal at all stages of the game. It's really going to be powerful at 5 and then maybe towards the end stage because of the fact that when this comes down, it does stop an attack for the 1 turn, and also it's a 5 cost 7,000 power body. So your opponent's very likely not going to be swinging into this once you start pressuring with this card. The trigger is KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 4 or less, so that's a nice little trigger to have as well. This is a brick though, so keep that in mind that it could be useful as a trigger instead of having it in your hand. Of course, this is a very glass cannon deck, and as a result, you're going to want to compile as many counters in your hand as possible. Next up, we have a 6 cost 6,000 power Robin on play. If your opponent has 3 or more life cards, trash up to 1 of the top cards of your opponent's life. So once again, kind of denying them resources, but also pushing our clock closer to the finish line. And also the trigger is sometimes relevant. We have a play up to 1 cost 3 or less yellow character from your hand. So we have a few of those that we could play out. Ideally though, we're not using that trigger very often. Another new addition from OP13 is a 7 cost 7,000 power Stussy, a blocker that says on play if your leader has the egghead type, play up to 1 character card with a cost of 5 or less with a trigger from your hand. So this is the only card in the deck that doesn't have trigger, but it does play out a trigger card. So your leader ability still gets that proc off, so very important. It's nice to have as a blocker to kind of stay alive, because if you noticed, we're not running beige, we're not running the 0 cost event. We want to have as many of these bodies instead. And of course, beige, while it is a really good card in yellow, I've noticed that it triggers when I don't really need it to. So beige for me was a cut, and instead Stussy came in and kind of like I was running it at 2 in another deck list. I ran it at 4 in this one because I just wanted the max amount of efficiency. And I do think it's an okay card, but I would say it's one of your more cuttable cards, in my opinion. I could be wrong on this, but I think maybe having it around 2 or 3 instead of 4 is a little bit better here. Point being, though, Stussy does allow you to at least play out multiple bodies, and once you start going really wide, then you can really help close out the game, because what you try to do after Stussy is play the 9-cost Jewelry Bonney, which is an on-play if your leader has the Egghead type. This character gains Rush, and then your opponent adds the top card of their life cards to their hand. So this will, once again, if you play a Basil Hawkins and they want to swing into it, you can trash a card. If you have this Nico Robin, you can trash a card. And this one isn't trashing a card, it goes to the opponent's hand, but it does apply a lot of pressure because the thing is, it's coming in with a 10,000k swing after that, and so your opponent's likely not going to be able to counter out of that one. So they just took a life, and then they're going to likely take another one here, which usually pushes them down to 0. Sometimes you can actually just have them at 0 with this 9 cost, and they have to answer a just blank 10 to face, along with whatever else you pumped up, and then whatever else you had on the field. So this card's really powerful, and it also has a trigger, which is weird enough, but it has a trigger that says if you have 1 or less life cards, rest up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 7 or less. So once again, if you are in a pinch and you need to be able to use this effect, do so, because it is pretty powerful, but it's a little bit more situational because of the fact that you have to have 1 or less life cards, so it only comes up every so often. And then finally, we're running 2 Flame Split. With the amount of ace decks that are out there right now, if you go against them, you're going to be hitting Marcos at some point, and you don't want to actually attack or KO the Marcos, rather, especially when they start stacking them towards the end of the game. Maybe they have a small amount of cards in hand, they put a couple blockers out on the field, and those blockers could be Marcos. Flame Split allows you to bypass them by resting it, and then also buffing your leader or character. So that's also very nice to note here. The reason we have it is because of that Marco. It's such a pain, and we need to be able to bypass it without giving the opponent all the cards in the hand. They already have enough cards, they don't need more with the Marco. So Flame Split allows you to at least rest it. The trigger is also resting an opponent's character with 4 cost or less, so that's very nice, because if this is in life and your opponent has a Marco on the field, you can just rest it for free. You don't have to actually take it to hand and then use it proactively. You can just use that free rest there. So very nice. Overall, the consistency of this deck is pretty strong. As you can see, we have 4 ofs across the board except for the Flame Split, and every card in the deck except for Stussy has trigger, and Stussy plays out a trigger. So technically, we are playing a trigger every turn, using our leader ability as often as possible, putting the Dawn either on characters or the leader, whatever you feel is fit, and then just hitting face as much as possible, getting that tempo. You want to go first with this deck. I think going second sometimes is a little bit too slow for what you're trying to do. If you can get first and then just hit 7, 7, 7, 7, and then just hit the 9-cost Bonney on 9, you are a very powerful deck. But like I mentioned, this meta just doesn't necessarily feel super strong for Bonney overall, but it could be a solid rogue pick. If somebody's really interested in playing this deck, I wouldn't discourage them from doing so, because who knows, this deck could actually pop up and do well at times. That being said, let's take this list into the sim and see how it does. All right, going against Arlong here, we're taking first, of course, and I think that this hand is fine. We have a 3 and a 4. What we want to do is play our 3-cost Bonney, and then either swing 5 or swing 7. I think swinging 7 is better. Just pushing their life down is probably going to be better here. They play out a Lilith, and they grab an Arlong, which is from OP06, the one that when they discard a card, they can stop a leader from attacking if it's rested that turn. So that's something to note. They might be able to stop an attack with their Arlong, so cool to see. They're playing Perona as well. So yeah, Arlong has gotten some decent support with green and yellow along the way, especially with all the triggers and everything. So I understand why they're cooking. I'm excited to see what they bring out. So we're going to play out this 3-cost Bonney because we have 2 of them. We'll play one of them out, and I think we just put the Dawn underneath our leader. Swing 7 here, be aggressive, put them down to 3 so that if we do have a Kikunojo in life, that it will be played for free. This next turn, I think our best bet is just to play the Kikunojo out, and maybe put 1 underneath the Bonney 3-cost, swing 5, see if they give us a card, and then put the 2 that we get from leader ability onto our leader and swing 7. I think that's probably our best bet, depending on what we get from life and depending on what we get from draw, though. All right, gonna swing 8 here and cheat out a body. I think what we're not looking forward to is maybe a buggy for the double attack. We don't want to take 2 life. We're not like disappointed taking 2 life either. It's not like the worst case scenario. But we prefer not to. Okay, so we'll just take the 1. This is the Arlong that they grabbed earlier. It's Arlong, discarding a card, and then a rested leader may not attack until the end of your next turn. So my leader can't attack, which means that... Okay, well, we get a Lilith trigger. I think the Nami's pretty solid because we have 2 of them right there. That actually might change how we play this out. We might play the Nami instead. We could play Nami and maybe dump the Kiku Nojo because it's counterless. Get rid of the Arlong and then put 2 down underneath the Bonney and then swing for 6. They'll probably give us a 2k counter here. I don't think that they would want to take a life and then also give us card draw. That's a pretty bad trade there. Baby 5, really strong into Arlong. Good trigger overall. Like seeing that. It's also 4 cost, so you could play it out if you do need to. Very interesting there. And then they play out this new 6 cost Luffy from OP13, secret rare. Double attack on play if your leader is multicolored, set up to 4 of your Dawn cards is active. Then you cannot play character cards with a base cost of 5 or more during this turn. Yeah, this is really good for this deck. It has Fishman Island type as well, so there's probably some good synergy with the Fishman Island archetype. So yeah, I like what they're doing. That being said, though, we're both kind of in the realm of these decks are not very meta viable. So I guess we're pitting it out to see who's better at slaying the meta by slaying each other. So we'll play out, or they'll play out this 3 cost Arlong. This one is, it gives a Dawn to a leader, and then one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 5 or less cannot be rested until the end of your opponent's next turn. So it just means that the 5 cost Nami we played out can't swing. They're going to swing 7 into the Bonney. Understandable. Here, we can just play out this Nico Robin. I think that's pretty solid because they're at 3 life. That's actually really good that they prevented us from attacking because they are going to be at 3 life there. So we'll trash the top of their life and then we'll swing 8 with all the Dawn we got in the world. So we're sitting at 4 life to their 1. And we have 2 bodies on board, which can easily swing in for lethal. So depending on what we get this next turn, I'm hoping to get a 9 cost Bonney within the next draw or 2 so that we are able to get rid of that last life for free and then have all of these swings that they have to defend against. So there's a couple things that they could play this turn to prevent that. They could do if they're playing like a Kuma, which is actually a card that I think is pretty viable for Bonney overall. We'll talk probably about that at some point, but I think that if they play Kuma, they can survive. If they play a blocker, there's a chance where they could do that as well. So swinging 5 with the Arlong will counter out here. We want to stay healthy, of course, because this is a double attack. We're going to have to take both of these. So we do end up getting the 9 cost Bonney there off of draw from the Bonney trigger. Here, I think we can just pitch the Stussy because we don't really need to play it or need it. We're going to pitch the other Nico Robin because it's ineffective. And that's actually really good for us to see. So I think we could just close out the game here, depending on what this last card is that they have. If it's a blocker, it's a little bit harder for us to close the game out, but we can still potentially do it. We just have to be aware that this Luffy's probably going to swing in first if we prolong the game one more turn. And if it is going to swing in, well, actually, if we just take this 8, then the double attack doesn't really matter. So I think we just take this. Oh, okay, so it is a double attack. We can counter out of this, but I think we're going for game anyway next turn. So let's see if we can get any bodies off of this. So we'll get a draw, grab a 2k just in case, and we get a Boa Hancock. Just KO the buggy. It doesn't really matter, to be honest, but let's just use the trigger just in case. And then, as I mentioned, we're going for game. So let's go ahead and play out the 9 cost Bonney and rip their last life. And then what we can do is put 2 underneath our leader, and then we'll go 5, 6, 7, 7. Or we can just put it underneath the Bonney and just swing 5, 5, 6, 12. It's kind of the same thing either way. But 12 is going to be really hard for them to get out of based off... Oh, okay. Well, Flame Split's actually not too bad there. It actually stops this Nami from attacking. So there's a world where maybe I should put the 2 underneath a leader instead. Like I said, it doesn't really matter too much because they shouldn't be able to counter out of the 12 to 6. But something to note, I guess, for next time. So yeah, here... we have enough. Yeah, they were pretty bricked up at the end with the 2 counterless cards. And yeah, you just have to be aggressive. They're 4-life leader anyway, so we were able to close out the game by just going first. All right, we're going to go first against Roger. This is a pretty solid hand. We have a 3 and a 5. So that's all we can ask for here. Of course, you could get a Lilith on turn 1 and then dig a little bit deeper, but I think having these cards in our hand is what we want anyway. So what we'll do on 3 is play this 3 cost Bonney out and then swing 7 with our leader, and then probably play the Hancock out on 5 just to get a pretty strong 7k attacker, and then also probably freeze their leader at that point just to prevent any more aggression from them. So I think that's probably pretty solid. I think that's going to be our plan. All right, we're just going to pass the turn on 1. And then usually on 2, they don't have anything. other than maybe like a Shanks Searcher. They don't have anything at all, so they pass back. Here, we're going to play out the Bonney, as I mentioned, put 2 underneath our leader and swing in for 7. Of course, Roger is a 5k leader until they hit 10 Dawn total. So we're going to try to pressure Roger as much as possible. This next turn, usually if they're going to 4, that means they have 3, so they could play a Basil, or no, it's not Basil, it's Douglas Bullet, which they don't have. They have Buggy to ramp instead, which there's an argument to run the Kiku Nojo instead, swing 5 with the Bonney, the 3-cost Bonney, and then 7 with the leader. But I think I still want to just play out the Boa Hancock here. We get a Lilith trigger, which is nice because we can actually just get this 9-cost Bonney. And then I think it's still fine to just play out this Hancock, just because it's a really powerful attacker. 7k attack is going to be able to attack into Roger at all stages of the game. Well, barring there's no 9-cost or 8-cost Roger. We'll play the Boa Hancock, use the effect, Kiku Nojo pitch, put 2 underneath the 3-cost Bonney. We'll swing 5 and we'll swing 6. What's really good here is they can't respond by swinging into the Bonney because they can't use their leader, so they have to put Dawn underneath the Buggy in order to swing into the Bonney, which I don't think they're going to do. And here they might just want to give us a couple cards. They actually take one. Wow, I'm surprised about that. I think we could pitch maybe the Hawkins. I think Hawkins is fine to pitch here. 2 9-cost is a little bit greedy, but there's a world where we actually might not be able to close them out in time and pressure them enough, so having the 2 9-costs could be good. Here on 5, usually it's either a Bond Clay, or I guess it's 6 rather. It's going to usually be Scopper or Gaben. So yeah, that's what they play out, which is really good there. Drawing 2, trashing 1, filtering their hand is pretty powerful, especially going into their turn where they're about to be at 10 Dawn. Then they can have something to play for 8, usually an 8-cost Promo Roger, or the 8-cost Rayleigh, which rests. Here, I think what we do is we just play out another 5-cost Boa Hancock. I think we just freeze the Scopper. We'll put 2 underneath the Bonney, and I think we just swing 6, 7, 7. This way, it's going to require them to give us a 2, 2, 1, and then another 2, 1. They have a lot of cards in hand, and I don't think they want to dump too much out of their hand quite yet, but they'll probably give us a 2k for this one, and I imagine they'll probably counter out of one of the other 7s and probably take one of the 7s, which means we do get some card draw going, which is nice. Give us an Uta for the 2. They give us a 0-cost event. Okay, that's good. And they'll probably just take the 7 here, I would imagine. They don't want to go down to 3 cards in hand, but who knows? Wow, they actually do. They do want to go down to 3 cards in hand. That is fine, I suppose. I mean, it's fine for me. I'll say that. It's fine for me. For them, if I was them, I would probably just would have taken the 1 attack and gone down to 2 there. Okay, so they play in the Katakuri, which... not bad. They'll swing into the 3-cost Bonney, get rid of it, so we lose our card advantage. That is a problem, but it is what it is. Here, what we'll do is we'll swing 7s across the board just to ask for 1 card out of hand, and if they block with the Katakuri blocker, I think we just go into the Katakuri blocker with the Bonney. We're not going to reveal we have Bonney quite yet, so we'll see what they do here. Hopefully, they do block. Give us a counter. I mean, that's good for us. The more that they counter out, the better it is for us to be able to close out the game against Roger. They do take the 7. That's good to see. We're going to go ahead and just play out this Bonney, and we're going to put the 2 underneath our leader. Swing 7, see if they want to give us this block. They do. And because we have another 9-cost, I think we can safely swing into the Katakuri with the 10. It's going to be hard for them to counter out, considering they dumped a lot last turn. And here, because I said we could have gone for face at that turn, but I think it's just better because we know that we can play another 9-cost and rip that card and then have a couple of 10k swings. Probably is going to be better overall. Oof. Shanks, that's a rough one. Thankfully, we have counter to get out of it. Really unfortunate, but it is what it is here. I think we just let this go, and we might just have to let this one go as well because we're not going to be able to dawn them up with the Shanks on the field to be able to swing in. Here, we'll just play the 9-cost, rip card from hand, put 2 underneath our leader. We'll swing 7, and then we'll swing 9, and then we'll swing 10, and that should get us across the finish line. That was... usually I don't like to have 2 Bonnies in hand, but I think it actually worked out for the specific match. Oh, we had another coming from the top of life. Insane. Yeah, I think this is a really favorable matchup for us, being able to pressure early and get them down, and then just rip that life once they do get to 7. Is kind of hard for Roger to deal with. All right, gonna go against Ace here. They choose to go second, which is fine. We want to go first, but this is one of our harder matchups because of the fact that we can pressure them as much as we like and get them down to 0. But if we get them down to 0, usually they just block her up with blockers that we have no way of getting past other than Marco. So if they do play out like Uta blocker or the 10 cost Blockbeard, we are in a lot of trouble. And they did grab one with this Garp, so something to note there. Here, I think we just end up swinging 8 with our leader because we have really nothing else to do. I think that it's unfortunate that they do have to take that, but we'd prefer them to not have all these cards in hand. They swing 7, which means that they don't have a 4, interestingly enough. We'll take that, of course, and then it looks like they just have a bunch of searchers. So they don't have anything on 4, but they have the rest of their game plan set up, which is pretty scary because they grabbed the I Am Whitebeard 8-cost event. Looks like they grabbed Starter Deck Vista, which is, I think, the blocker, the 1-cost blocker. And they play out one more Garp. So they have a lot of searchers. They have pretty much everything they need. It looks like they grabbed the Marco blocker as well. This turn, what we can end up doing is we probably just swing... I think we play the Kikunojo down here, and then we'll just swing 8. We usually want to swing good numbers against them. 7s is pretty bad against Ace because they can just give us 1 card with leader ability, but here they have to give us 2 cards at least with 10 in hand. We need to whittle this hand down, or I guess rather 9 in hand. We need to whittle this hand down a little bit. So they give us the Marco and a 1k counter as well, assumably. A 2k counter. Okay, that's pretty solid for us. Or maybe it's scary. Maybe it means they have a lot of 2k counters. But I think here we probably just counter out of this 6k attack, stay at 4 life, don't go within putting range. They go Jozu to bounce the Kikunojo back. Unfortunate, but it is what it is. Here what we'll do is play Stussy. Stussy will then bring out the Boa Hancock. We'll use the effect to prevent, I think, the Jozu from attacking because they have the I Am Whitebeard event, which means the Jozu will be attacking next turn. So at least we stop one of those attacks. We'll swing 7 here, which, as I just mentioned, you don't want to swing 7s against Ace, but I mean, if you have to, then you just have to. We do get a Rad Beam out of that, which is nice. Here comes the I Am Whitebeard event. Do they rip life? It doesn't look like they rip life, which is pretty solid for us. It means we can still pressure their face a little bit. Here they put the 2 Don underneath their leader. 2 Don underneath doesn't matter because they can't swing with the Jozu. I think we could block this one, give them a 2k, but I think it's better to just take the life. Do we have anything we bring out? No, we cannot, so we'll just keep the Nico Robin in hand as a counter. This Otama is pretty powerful for being able to close out games unexpectedly against Ace, but I think what we do is we just hold off. Here, because it's a 7k swing, we have a bunch of 7s. We're just going to force them to use their leader ability, which they do, and then we'll swing 7 again, asking for 2k, see if they give us a block. What we're trying to do is we're baiting out like this block. Not that it really matters. We just want the block out of the way. And in here, I think what we end up doing is we put 2 underneath their leader, swing 7, see if they give us another 2k, and then if they... Okay, well, I think we just don't swing with his 9 cost because they didn't use the blocker. There's no reason to because they'll just get a free block off for that. And then here, I think our window to close out the game is like slowly going away. The fact that they have 1 10 cost on the field, that 8 cost spell is just so good for Ace. It's just too good. Being able to get a 10 cost out a whole turn earlier is really good value for Ace. If, you know, the 10 cost comes out on 10, then I would have at least a chance I could swing with this Bonney, but not the case. All right, they're going to swing 7 into the Stussy. I'm just going to give them a 1k. I think where we can at least protect our units, let's do it. I think that's important here. We need as many units as possible to close this game out. It's slowly becoming a situation where we cannot close the game out. Here we can give them an Edison, I think is fine. We want to keep the Otama as a good way to close out if we can. Jozu is an unfortunate bounce. That's such a pain. Okay, so what we end up having to do... Oh my gosh, into an Uta. I think we do play a Hancock just to prevent the Newgate from attacking. I think that they should be using their Newgate as an attacker, but... Yeah, I think that that's probably slightly a mistake. What we can do here is we can swing 8 with the Stussy. I think just swing good numbers where we can. See if we can get leader ability plus a 1k. There we go. Leader ability plus a 1k. Good to see there. Let's swing 10, see what they do here. I would probably block with the Newgate if I were them, but I don't know if they want to block. Okay, yeah, makes sense. 10 with that. And then what we end up doing here, is I think I guess we just play out the Hancock. We then pitch a Kikunojo, prevent the Newgate from attacking. I think we put the Don underneath the leader here. We could swing really big, but I want to swing 8 because I think if we can pressure, there might be a world where we can pressure with the Otama on the Lilith. They might just block with that or give us a 1k. I don't think it's worth playing the 2k, actually. I could have swung bigger, I guess. I was thinking about playing the Otama and then putting 3,000 onto the Lilith and then swing 6 with the Lilith with the extra Dom we have. But swinging that just to get 1 card out of hand and then I go down 1 life and I lose a 2k in the process doesn't really seem like a good trade there. If they're swinging 9s onto the Stussy, then I think I just have to let it go. So, I mean, I could give them a 2 and a 1, but I don't quite want to do that. And here's where they start picking apart our board, I would imagine. I don't know if Jozu wants to go into the Bonney, though. It's a little bit too much of a swing investment, so they could have a red rock to get rid of it. They might also just play another 8-cost spell. That could also be a thing. They have plenty of different options. I think they've taken over the game. As I mentioned, like, you get them down to 0, and then it's like they have this wall of blockers that's really hard to get past. I think we take the 7. We do have a Bonney, but that Bonney trigger doesn't actually... that's rough. That's rough. I wish that it was a little bit lower in the life total. That way I could rest the Uta and then be able to get past this new gate. I think I could crack past with just 1 blocker there. Okay, another Lilith. Let's see what we get. None of this really matters. I guess the Stussy or Frankie are good options. Like I said, none of it really matters here. We're trying to close the game out, and I guess Frankie... we're probably going to lose this next turn anyway with 1 life left and all these huge attacks. Another Jozu comes down. That's, yeah, just unfortunate. What we could do here is we could actually play out Boa Hancock twice, prevent 2 of these attacks from happening, I suppose. We'll swing 10 first and just see if they give us a block. Yep. And then what we do is we just go like Boa Hancock, swing 7, get a leader ability out, go Boa Hancock again, and then freeze. We'll freeze the 10 cost and we'll freeze a Jozu. I guess that's as good as it gets. Yeah, we'll pitch all the dead cards out of hand as well, even though it means pitching this Flame Split could be useful for later. I think we don't really have much of a later. Yeah, let's just swing 7 here. Unfortunate, but yeah, this is like, we have to try to build the board once more and also stop these attacks. So, it's such a pain. Okay, so we'll go Boa Hancock again, freeze this. So, Jozu's frozen, Newgate's frozen. We have 2-2-1-1, and they have 3 swings here. We have to counter out of this one, of course. We'll give them a 2 and a 1. I think we keep on to the Otama as long as we can here. Okay, that 7 was a good start. They're testing the waters and seeing what we do. 6 is also good. If they have a rush unit, then we're just dead. So we need to at least counter out of this one, unfortunately. If they do have a Roger here... Bonney's dead. I think that there goes the game. What we have to do is swing with numbers, which we don't really have good numbers here either. We can go 8, see what they do. Leader ability plus a 1k. We can go 8 again, see what they do here. We get some blocks. So, I mean, there's a world, but I don't... Even then, the Lilith isn't really swinging too well. Yeah, okay. So at that, they have 2 blocks left, and we have 2 swings left. I think that's game. This is unfortunately sometimes how the ace games goes. They just are able to stall out with these 10 cost blockers, and Uta's also really good as well. All right, going against Lim here, we're going to take first. Of course, both of our decks actually want to go first, so we're going to snipe that away from them, and this is a pretty strong start here. We have a 3-cost Bonney into a potential Hawkins or Nami. I think this matchup is a little bit interesting in that we're both aggressors, but I don't necessarily want them to take life because I want them to give me cards ahead of time so that I can swing into their bodies and get the bodies off the field that way and then build my board and take their board away. They do give us a card here. The whole reason I put the Dawn underneath the Bonney is because I figured they would do that. We'll take this 6, I think, is fine. Depending on what they play here, we might have to play the Nami. Okay, Doflamingo, pretty solid there. I think what we do is we actually hold off on getting rid of the Doflamingo. We have a couple options here. We can swing 5 with this Bonney and then play out the Hawkins and swing 7. Just depends on what they do. If they do give us a counter here, I think it's actually very worth it to play out the 3-cost Bonney so that we have a backup one because we just went over sideways. We'll swing 8 into the Doflamingo. And this one, oh, they gave us a lot of cards here. This is exactly the spot where we want to be at. I think we're in a pretty good spot here. They just dumped their hand to protect this blocker. And we have a lot of answers to what's on their field right now. And we also have card draw. So we didn't really actually lose anything in this process. We will let that one go. They'll probably swing 6 with the Doflamingo. Oh, they have another Doflamingo. Okay. Well, they'll swing 6 with it anyway, so that everything restands or should restand at the end of this turn. I think they forgot the limb trigger there. Unfortunate, but it is what it is. What we'll do is we'll play the Stussy. Stussy will then play out the Nami. We'll draw a card off of that. We'll put Tudon underneath. I think the leader's fine here. And what we'll do is we'll swing 7 into the limb. And then hopefully get that off the field. They could block in 2K, but I think they're pretty low on hand size. And now our board in 1 turn is looking pretty good. We have 3 wide, and they didn't have anything to play after that. Yeah, we took over the game at that point in time. Holy moly. All right, gonna go first against Zoro here. I think that this hand is... it's okay. We have a 1 cost and we have a 9 cost. We just need to find things in between, which we have plenty of things in between. This Bonney is... I think it could be bait. I think the Hancock is a little bit better here because of the fact we can just stop a leader swing at one point in time. If we play this 3 cost Bonney down, they could respond with a Kuina. I think it's better to just swing probably 8 with our leader this next turn, depending on what we have. Perona grabbing a Kushiro blocker. We have double 9 cost, which is pretty nice to see here. What we really like to see in this matchup is... I think I like Hawkins in this matchup. I like Kikunojo in this matchup because it prevents them from really attacking into the bodies without getting punished, which is pretty nice. This next turn, though, I think what we do is probably just play out the Hancock. So that way, when the Hancock comes out on the field, we're able to freeze the Zoro leader. And that means the next turn, usually they'll end up playing like a Law into a Tashigi or just a Tashigi outright. And that's kind of a useless turn for them because of the fact that they don't get anything from it. Their leader won't be able to use the 3 that goes on. Here they play out Mihawk into Zoro. Zoro restands to Dawn. Also restands itself at the end of the turn, which is going to be quite annoying. They play out that 2K counter to just get rid of the Lilith. They just, I guess, want to clear the board. I'm not going to be swinging with that anyway, so I think it's okay. We do get that 6 cost Nico Robin. We have too many of them already. That's just fine, but it is what it is. Here we're going to play out the Hancock. Freeze the Zoro. And then swing 7 at lead there. They do take that, which I figured they might not want to take it. Because they dropped a 2K there, I think it makes sense that they had to kind of take that one. This is a little bit of a weird play from them. I don't agree with them dropping this here to get rid of the Lilith. I think that the Lilith is the least of their concerns. I think having a 2K is probably a little bit better in hand. To be quite honest, I'm probably not swinging with the Lilith ever. But there's a world maybe I do. I don't know. Maybe they were worried about that. Maybe they lost a previous game against a Bonney where they stacked a lot onto the Lilith and then lost. So it's a possibility. But this turn, it's a little bit awkward for them because of the fact that if they do drop a 5 cost Tashigi, then what are they going to do after that? You know, actually, it's not the worst thing. Playing this 3 cost 2K counter, I just thought about that. They have an opportunity here to actually just bounce it back to hand with a Law. So they could do that. Usually I do that with like a Mihawk, but they could just do that with the 2K counter. So, okay, it's not the worst play in the world if they have a Law. If they don't play Law this turn or the turn after, then it's kind of like a useless card to throw down. They're not playing it this turn. That is fine. What we'll do is we'll just give them a 1K counter here with the Nico Robin. Do we give them another one? I don't think we do. I think we hold on to the Nico Robin here. Oh, actually, we could give them a 2K counter, but I think it's probably better to just take this one hit. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm glad that I took that one hit. That's good for us. What do they have for Fordon here? Not entirely sure. They could put Blocker down. They could put like another Zoro down. They could put a lot onto the Perona. They have a couple options here. I think the Kikunojo coming out is probably very tilting for them though, because they don't want to swing into this, and it's an additional body that's going to just go to face for the most part. I don't know if we get rid of the Mihawk. Do we swing into the Mihawk ever? I think we just lead our aggression to face, because the Mihawk means that they have to use a Dawn investment to be able to get rid of that. So yeah, I'm not quite sure. Anyway, this next turn, we have a pretty solid play here. We will go and play out the Nico Robin, trashing the top life, and then we can swing 7 3 times, which is really strong, of course. We go 7 with lead, 7 with the Hancock, and then the extra Dawn we have for being on 7 Dawn can 1 go to Kikunojo. That's a lot of cards for them to have to counter out of. All right, playing a Kushiro and a Perona. Interesting to see. I think they're probably just going to grab... I mean, if they leave 1 open, that Law is a 6 cost Law. So that is exactly what they need. Leaving 1 open means they might have a counter event for +3. Let's go ahead and just use the Nico Robin here to trash that top life. Put 2 to our leader. We'll swing 7 to lead. And we'll swing 7 and 7, as I mentioned. They block that first 7. We'll go another 7 to lead here. What do they do? I mean, if they block that first one, do they give us the demonic sword? I think they might. That gives us +8, and then they have to probably take the other 7, I would imagine. They really don't want to go down to 1 life. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. They took it. Do they take this next one? To be quite honest, if I were them, I actually might take this next one, knowing that on 9, I could just lose it anyway. But respect, they don't want to just give me that either. Completely understand there. 2Ks, we love to see that. So this turn, they might just go after the Boa Hancock. If we can, I think we protect all of the units that we can, and we just take the life. Law coming down, grabbing the 2K? You don't... I think they grabbed the 2K there. Okay, well, it doesn't... Honestly, it doesn't really matter, like the 2K or the 1K. It's fine either way. I think they just grab the 2K just to be safe, but here they do play out the Law Tashigi combo. They probably had the Tashigi the previous turn. They just couldn't play it because of the fact that we stunned their leader. And so here, if they do go 8 into any of the bodies, I can protect. If they go 10 into any of the bodies, I can protect it as well, and I probably should. I probably should, to be quite honest. We'll probably take a 5 from the Zoro. They actually might go like 5, 5, 9. Oh, they just go 6. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll give them a 1K here. We are needing to protect these bodies for sure. Leaving the 1 open suggests that they do have the counter event to stay alive. Yeah, that's what it looks like. We're going to go ahead and just counter out here. We need all of these bodies to stay just to add that extra pressure, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to close the game out this next turn, which I think we have a good chance of doing. They do have 1 blocker, and assumably they have one cost event. They've dumped a bunch of 2Ks, as we can see. They have a Mihawk and Trash. They have 2 2Ks on the board. So we have a pretty good shot at least pressuring them pretty hard, because we have a 6, 6, 7, 7 swing, and also a 10 as well. Can't forget that. We'll take this, and what does this do? Rest of 4? No reason to have that. So we'll just hold on to it. It'd have been pretty nice, of course, but yeah. And then here, what we'll do is we'll play the Bonney. We'll use the Bonney effect to rip that last life, put 2 underneath our leader, and then just go 6, 6, 7, 7. The fact that they have 6 cards in hand means that they are not going to be able to get out of that. They give us a 2K, 2K, 2, 1, 2. Actually, they could technically get out of it if they go like 2K, 2K, 2, 1, 2, 1, and then they block the 9 cost. There's a small window, or a small world rather, where they do have the counter, but we'll see if they have it. They could give us a 2-1 here. Okay, and I was going to say the 1 cost event. So they didn't have, they're just feigning it. Zoro just hates yellow. I feel like no matter what yellow matchup they go against, it's just rough for them. Boa Hancock just stopping their leader for a turn slows them down so much tempo-wise. And then, of course, the 9 cost forcing that last life is just really painful for them. Well, as you can see, if you go first, the deck kind of plays itself. Your curve is pretty powerful if you do go first. So, of course, we did kind of like steamroll some of those games. And I feel a little bit bad because of the fact that we did win dice roll. It does feel a little bit maybe skewed as far as how strong the deck is, because if you do win the dice roll, which I guess this is a dice roll meta, so technically any deck you pick right now kind of has that same effect, but especially with Bonney, you want to go first. So here's the thing. In a meta where every deck kind of want to go second, maybe Bonney isn't the worst pick in the world, because you do actually want to go first. So if somebody's trying to snipe second, you just are like okay with that, because you can still just hit pretty hard and fast. So Bonney, as I mentioned in the intro, is kind of just a deck that I wouldn't feel necessarily strong taking to a really huge tournament. Locals for sure, maybe to a Treasure Cup. A regional, if I'm trying to get like a regional invite. I don't know if I'd take Bonney though. I would probably take one of the 3 that are top decks right now, but Bonney could be a solid pick. Maybe I'm just too much of a coward to actually try that out. So let me know in the comments below what you guys think of Bonney overall. Are there any other additions that you might have in your Bonney deck that I didn't include here? Let me know in the comments. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.